All right, all right, all right. This is part 3 of my series on brainstorming, and this is about making creative choices. So, one thing that we always seem to forget about, or we don't talk about enough, is you have a ton of ideas now. You have your list of 10, maybe it's 20, your different solutions to the problem you're focusing on. What do you do with these, and how do you decide what actually goes in your book? Well, we are going to think through a couple of different options. The first one I'm going to talk about is the engineering product design thinking way that I learned. And then the second way, a little bit more freeform, I'll show you my own notebook and some general questions that you can use to make those creative decisions. And honestly, those questions, there's 4 questions or 4 groups of questions, and you can use those at any point in the process. They're wonderful guiding questions that I did not come up with all of them, by the way. I'm just reporting and consolidating. It's not me. Okay, so when we are doing design thinking, for a product, we end up with, again, a gazillion ways to solve a problem. Usually it's easy to do a first separation of wheat from chaff. If you don't like them at all, don't force yourself to continue analyzing or thinking about them. Just do the ones that are interesting and that you think are viable solutions. I recommend, especially if you're solving a problem, especially if you are in the later stages of revision, you could do what we call a decision matrix. If you do not want to be mathy, skip to the timestamp. I will try to put a thing, like skip to the timestamp on the next section. This isn't that mathy, but so the first thing to do to make a decision matrix is you have to come up with criteria. So criteria on which to judge your ideas or criteria on which to judge your solutions. Criteria could be, how unique is this? Have I seen this before? How well does this fit with the story question? It could be, how much change does this require to my existing manuscript? It could be, how compelling do I think this is? How much forward action is there? It could be the complexity of it. You might have an idea for a scene that is so perfect for the hero's moral problem, but then it's not very compelling. I have one of those. I have a scene where the character could be practicing violin, and because she has a lot of thoughts around her worth being attached to how good she is at violin, I could have a lot of scenes where she is just being told she's being critiqued for her violin thing. And there are elements of that are going to be in there. But for a midpoint scene, I could have, for her misbelief, it's going to be a failure at the mentorship plot, it's going to be a failure, the mentor is going to tell her she's awful. Or I could have it be something more related to the external action, and that is more compelling. However, if the external action is they're robbing something and it doesn't go well, it's okay, how does that relate to the misbelief? And so both can kind of theoretically relate, but one is maybe more forward driving, one is more internal. Depending on your story, that could be good, that could be bad, it doesn't really matter. It's your decision, and it's your decision how much you want to weight those things. Here you're going to choose a scale, and I recommend 1 to 3 to avoid false precision. So you will take each of those criteria you came up with and assign them a weight. So for example, my criteria of how much change will this require in the manuscript, maybe you weight that at a 1. I don't mind doing extra work, I don't mind changing if it's the right solution. You could also weight it at a 3. Maybe it's very important. Maybe you have a deadline and you can't make that many changes. Another one, how story forward, how maybe compelling or action driven is this solution? External is the solution. Maybe that's a 3. Maybe you want to make sure that you're keeping up a really fast pace, or maybe the rest of the book has been slow and you need this particular element to be super external, super engaging, super compelling. How well does it reflect and work off and enhance my character's arc, my character's journey? Maybe that's a 2, somewhere in the middle. So you give all of those criteria a weight. And then you take the solutions or the ideas that you came up with. So we're going to put our criteria down the side and our solutions across the top. And then you take each idea and you rate it on the criteria. So one idea might require a ton of work. So I'm going to put For changes required to story, that is a 1, meaning there's a lot of change required, so that's the lowest score. Again, I would recommend a 1 to 3 or 1 to 5 scale to avoid false precision. For example, what is the difference between changing a story at around a 1 level versus a 2 level if you're on a scale of 5? I don't know. But if you have a 1, 2, 3 scale, it's like small, medium, large. Gotcha. So you score each of those ideas on each of those criteria. And then you do some multiplication. So you multiply the score by the weight of the criteria. The idea here is that the things that are more important for your story are given more emphasis, more weight. And then you add all of the scores up. Whichever idea or solution has the largest score is the best fit for the criteria that you created. Some caveats with this. I've talked a lot about false precision. Just do 1 to 3 and 1 to 3. It's a story, like we're creative. Or do 1, 3, 5. Don't make it nuts. Actually 1, 3, 5 might even be better because then you have a larger difference and that can help you out. Number 2. The one with the highest score does not have to be the solution that you go with. The idea is to do the process, the analytical right brain process of analyzing each solution and really thinking it through and thinking what changes it requires and what the merits and the pros and cons of it are. So you don't have to go with the one that has the highest score. You could look at it and be like, man, that doesn't seem right, like I love this idea. Go with that idea. But it's a technique to help you think through things analytically. Now, for those of us who don't like math, here is some tips for just how to analyze without getting into the spreadsheet. I would not make any decisions the day that you brainstorm. I would do the brainstorming, record it, sort out your options, write down your solutions, think through it, say what if this happened, follow it to its logical conclusion, write out your pros and cons, all of those things, and then leave it. You can also break that up, by the way. Definitely document your brainstorming in an organized way the same day because you will forget, but you can do the pros and cons at any point. But just give yourself a break. Don't make rash decisions. Let it sort of percolate. I think this is where that like creative intuition really comes in, but here are some things to think through. The first one is use your controlling idea, your story question, your moral problem, your story question or your moral problem as your North Star. These are like overarching themes or statements, and evaluate which ideas are in line with them and which are too far off center. The next question, and this comes from Story by Robert McKee, he asks, what scene or idea or solution is truest to my characters? What is truest to the world? And what have I not seen in quite this way before? The next question is, what gets me excited and inspired? What is simple? What just fits? What makes sense? Those are your 4 sort of filter questions. So what is relevant is really the first question. The second is, what's true to my project? What's different, inspiring, exciting? And what is simple? Because what we choose not to put on the page is almost as important as what we choose to put on the page. So if you've gone through this process and you're a little bit stuck on the actual sitting with pen and coming up with ideas, check out my brainstorming techniques video. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know how you evaluate your different ideas and options for your story and how you choose which one you end up going with. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Nicole Wilbur. Have a great day.